Yakuza Extreme 3 is a fully functional, playable experience featuring gameplay, story, and controls that is currently on the market. And if I have to think about Yakuza Extreme 3 for 15 more minutes, I am going to bulldoze an orphanage. Let's run it back. It's time for a history lesson. So Yakuza Kiwami was a remake of Yakuza. This happens in it.
Help. You fucking Yakuza! Don't fuck with Kagawa-san!
How many times I gotta tell you? I'm not Yakuza. You retarded?
In order to suppress the cognito hazard, Yakuza Kiwami was made in 2016 by taking the recently made Yakuza 0, blasting a coat of Yakuza 1 paint over it, then having the funny eye patch guy gang stalk you for the entire game. That's all you really needed, so they made a Yakuza Kiwami 2 a little while later, remaking the second game using a freshly coated Yakuza 6 and also green. Lots and lots of green. Let's be clear, I'm not the authority to speak on the matter of that one. The only time I played it, it looked like this, so I feel as if that drops my credit. Anyways, that brings us to 3. Yakuza 3 sucks. I played it. Not bad in a vacuum, I'll give it that, but every Yakuza game is no exaggeration like 80% the same as every other Yakuza game, and the 20% here is mediocre, but the problem is the combat was inspired by the 2 old men they saw in the nursing home fighting over the last Chobani. Yakuza 2 for the PS2 apparently was the exact same thing, but better. If you're gonna look me in the thermal imagers and say, nah bruh, while bounding peak bruh, after showing me the combo you did to deal an 1/8 of the enemy's first health bar, I will allow myself to kick you in the nose. But despite my rabble-rousing remarks, Yakuza is really the only franchise with like 2 billion entries where you could say that any of its titles are your favorite or least favorite entry without seeming fresh out of the institution. Except for these 3, everyone thinks they're good. I mean, there's things to like here, whatever floats your boat, live and let live. Different strokes for different But anyways, I haven't played the original 1 and 2, nor have I played the medicated version of Kiwami 2, but from what I can tell, the remakes are just a bit off. The vibe and music are less grungy and more sterile, and just overall even more of a Frankenstein acid mash than the huge. Look at this fight from the original Yakuza 2, now look at the new one 2 console generations later. They took my caustics, my diffusions, my planars, they took the whole wave front, alright? Can't have nothing! Now, I don't believe you if you say you seriously cared about the sanctity of the first 2. No one played them, but the point is that the actual improvements they made were working uphill to counterbalance what they took, and this is the 3rd chance to get it right this time, and you just have to do it better than the most mid-mainline entry you've ever made. When Kiwami 3 was revealed, it was like, okay, take Yakuza 3, throw in the combat, graphics, and layman's recreation of physics from your fancy custom engine, try to match everything up, and do not do anything stupid, and what could... Kiwami 3 isn't bad. It's not bad, I didn't say that. And that's the interesting part, isn't it? How is it not bad? And why are the ways it could be bad the way they are? No. It's not modern gaming soulless. That discredits its unique and cutting-edge ways of being dog water. Because in spite of that normally being as interesting as it is also simultaneously just as mediocre as the original. You should be confused. This is not a typical video of mine, and I won't make any more of these unless I am accidentally funny, so take it as a Rex Salvo Beach episode to see how fast I can put one of these together. Still gonna take 2 months. Yeah. Dark Ties is the selling point of this entry, a new campaign where you get to play as the main antagonist Yoshitake. The decision was Mine and Mine alone, as he, fed up with the corporate grind, finds a mysterious figure fit to worship and tries to find a proper bond in human connection. That, or he's just like legitimately gay. Possibly that one. We'll get back to Dark Ties. Now, the problems all began, I think, with Yakuza 8. People are divided because the mainline games are all turn-based and not beat-em-up, starting with Yakuza 7, but this concerns the English dub. I know I talk about voice acting a lot, but just always play with the English dub on everything. That's what I do. But it's not the original faithful. Shut up, you look like this. Either English dubs are good, and you can look at the other 80% of the screen for the exact same quality of product, or they're bad, which is going to make them funny. Exceptions to those two are extraordinarily rare, which is why I'm bringing this up. Yakuza's English dub is really good, not bad funny, surprisingly. Well, excluding the first one.
What you're doing?
What? Of course not. Are you fucking retarded?
I would sell myself to strange men.
But the only exception nowadays is the new guy for John Yakuza himself circa 2023.
Long time no see, Kasuga.
That's just a YouTuber they found at a bus stop doing the most miscast job he can. That's the worst middle ground. You don't want that. I mean, this is a nightmare. This is abysmal. This is like the H3 character pack, but worse. Anyone else would be better. I can shoot off a few good ones, like Alex Lee. He did the Amazon show.
For once, I almost missed the muggers.
Steve Bloom, he's on call too.
Sure, leave it up to me to kill them all.
I'd pick the Agent 47 guy if it was up to me.
All right. Consider it done. Right. That would be terrible. Thanks for the tip. Where is this wheelchair guy right now?
Did going ballistic on Twitter help his case? Probably not, but the whole decision might have been an act of calculated rage bait by the higher-ups, in which case it worked. So if you were looking for a start point where the franchise got cut up by harebrained decisions like that internally, it kicked off here. Maybe it's a Stockholm Syndrome, but Yang Ye has gotten better in the role. He doesn't fit still, but it's... But on the subject of hiring niche internet micro-celebrities for main roles, I can do Henry the Handcuff or even the Shanadoid pretty well should any more Kiwamis be made. You won't find better prices anywhere else, just do it. Please. Pirate Yakuza has the next set of problems. The Lost Judgment combat was hammered down too smoothly, the new parts to it were janky, it follows the side content formula too closely, and the lighting looks way worse than the last game. Then there was Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. Nothing to say.
Fell for it again award.
Which leads us to here in the demos where the issues start, which is, first and foremost, the lighting has reached critical mass and underwent 40 years of model collapse due to the Sega supercomputer hitting AI rampancy. You see this? What did the, steal a brain rot, dress to impress, grow a garden, adopt? What is this? Modders fixed this in like 5 minutes by removing the filter the game is plastered with, and it looks way better. RGG did eventually fix some complaints when it came out that River's okay-ish now. You do a moderate amount of damage as opposed to way too much in a game that's a remake where you originally did way too little, and Daigo not being barefoot is now fixed. Which leads us to now, which is the game. What about the game? So the combat's new, you got your normal dragon style, right? If you don't know, Kiryu's got 2 separate versions of that classic moveset, the first one being used up until Yakuza Kiwami, being pretty arcadey feeling, and the new one 4 and after Yakuza 6, which is fluid and smooth, but less crunchy and more stuffy. Yakuza Kiwami 3 grafts those 2 versions together, splitting the combos basically at random. It's usable. And they added agent moves. When did he start doing that? But now we also get the new Okinawan style, which is bad. It's so bad! When we're talking bad movesets from the games, they're ineffective, but they all got something to like, such as Tanimura's and Shinada's, which are actually not bad. I got you, and I will be playing them in the future. Yakuza's Kiwamis for $8 an hour, please. Crane style from Judgment gets you a bunch of flashy kicks, and it only really gets bad at the end of the game because you can't really upgrade it. But it doesn't matter because they did my boy right in LJ. Ishin had a gun style that sucked, but it also had a sword style and a sword and a gun style, which was better than either of them, obviously, because you had both of them. That's the only one I haven't played yet. I don't know. And agent style gives you a bunch of Looney Tunes Kingsman gadgets, but also a full moveset that's basically a custom form of stylish yet practical Kung Fu MMA hybrid they theory crafted for the game. It's got boxing, Muay Thai, Taekwondo, Bajikwan, Wing Chun, Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, and also Taido, all stirred into a realistic soup. Your suit pants would need to be drenched in lube for that one, but still. If you've seen the Blade and Sorcery video, you might have been able to reason I'm familiar with just enough about this martial arts stuff for the aesthetics of agent style alone to make me soil my jorts. So anyways, it's good. Now, the Okinawan style gives you a bunch of traditional weaponry from the prefecture, all made to crowd control and break guards with its 8 different, barely legal munitions. Here's the problem. You get 1 move each, 1 combo, 1 charge attack, 1 function. There's basically no balance between using light moves to build up to your strongest heavy attacks, or mixing in grabs, counters, or reversals if you're feeling extra fancy. There's none of that here. You get a decision of, should I use the ore or my chain knife, and then you hold the button down and cannot combo into the other weapons. It all does good damage, it's not useless, it's boring. The stupid part is that the original Yakuza 3 had a ton of equipable weapons, and they all had 3 moves each. That doesn't exist anymore, so this style is literally a downgrade from the time we didn't have it. And then to make that worse, you get new moves from this random guy. No funny cutscenes that you gain revelations from, no IF7, no Komaki, and where's Mac? What'd you do to him? If Mac has a million fans, I'm one. Unfortunately, Mine's fighting style is actually pretty good. You can do this backwards cartwheel, you can yeah, I know, juggle him. It's fine. He actually gets 2. You swap to a new one when you're in edgelord mode. They're alright, and the game gets its mileage out of them. Score 1 for Yakuza Kiwami 3, 20 more and you're out of the negatives. That brings us to the plot, which is intact for the most part, including Chapter 9, the plot, which is about going to the National Diet Building to have a conversation about the plot of the game for 40 straight minutes with the last government official to not be on the island. Absolute gem. However, now he tells you to take a break every 5 seconds where you can take selfies like a 40-year-old man on Facebook. That's actually all you can do, and the diet building looks like this. Jesus Christ, I know you didn't remake this set from the ground up. What happened to it? You'd have to run it through Gmod first to have it look like that. How did it get this bad? But anyways, the story of Kiryu Kazuma and his nephew starting up an orphanage in Okinawa, which inconveniently happens to be in a neighborhood the conflicting forces have wanted to buy out to make it into either a giant water park or an expansion from a military base for a giant state-of-the-art missile defense system, which also the Yakuza and the Americans are meddling in. And also Daigo got shot too, and the CIA are getting involved, and also this arms smuggling smuggling group that looks like the CIA called Black Monday, and also the guy that shot Daigo looks conspicuously like your dead dad, and do you realize why we have a 40-minute exposition dump now? That's all for the most part intact. They did go out of their way to make a couple additions, but it's intact. So what about the actors? I think you know where this is going, so hold still. I'm pretty sure I gotta slap this disclaimer on your face. If Papa YouTube calls, tell him I warned ya. He takes my money if I speak about Grape. I'm figuring he's gotta be defending it. RGG does this thing where they hire real actors to face model the characters sometimes, which usually disproportionately causes problems. Someone thought Tanimura's actor was doing crack rocks in a break room in 2016, and he temporarily retired, so they needed a new one for the remaster. Hamura's actor was actually doing coke and had to be replaced. Remember, that's a big thing in Japan. And there was a whole controversy with Yagami's actor's talent agency, and that's probably why there might not be a Judgment 3. There's probably gonna be, but not for a while. But they're still going at it and hiring face models, and I think Nakahara's isn't bad, even though everyone says he is, but Ricky's is, where's the punch perm? They massacred the punch perm. Who is this guy? And I really feel like it starts to become an issue when it gets into Rikia's and Kiryu's romance. This is what's happening here. Don't think about it. Just take my word for it. This is what's happening. The scene isn't funny anymore. And that brings us to Hamazaki, who's been retconned into a whole new character now and played by one Teruyuki Kagawa, who's known for groping. Oh no, no! Now let me be clear. Every stance I've heard on this matter in some capacity hurts my brain, so I will not be saying it was actually not that bad, nor give the horse of moral outrage another beating. We're deciding if analytically this was a good decision from the business. It was not. Director Hori made the only response being that they wanted to hire someone that would give you the creeps. My first thought was, yeah, right. My second thought was, wait, that might just make it worse. If you're lying, why lie about that? And my third thought was when I remembered this guy from Kiwami 2 who was racist towards Koreans, whose actor was racist towards Koreans. That might just be a thing they do. So I'm not even sure that's a cover story anymore. Make of it what you will, but I guess they want them authentic. Judgment 3's serial killer will be played by Gary Ridgway. They're going to be breaking him out of jail, and he will be gainfully employed. Now, about the case, this guy apparently apologized to one of his victims. There was likely a second, but besides some consequence until he took a hiatus, in terms of the Japanese public eye and industry, he's basically in the clear. Pretty sure at least. It's real murky, his rep collapsed, but he has a clean slate. Nothing he's ever been in has left the nationwide sphere since now, so I suppose that RGG or Sega hired him and just hope this wouldn't blow up again. But here's the thing, Yakuza fans do not like their franchise. If there's a reason to tear this thing apart, they will hack the Pentagon to find it. Realistically, this wasn't guaranteed to get out, but the previous controversy for this game was that Kiryu had a new Hawaiian shirt, of which you could get the original one in like 5 minutes if you wanted to. This is a bigger situation than Kiryu having a new Hawaiian shirt. They noticed. This was a bad idea. We all know sexual assault is treated pretty lax in Japan, but you can't defend him or Sega or RGG for a when in Rome argument when over half the revenue for your game is coming from places like where I live, where he wouldn't have gotten away that easy. Unless he was in Hollywood or an elected official, oh, forget it. I know never ever letting cancellations go is a bit of a Western thing, but come on, he never got charges for this. Japan is the weird cousin at the cookout here. They did settle it out of court, but you get my point. He wasn't even remotely apologetic about this. Now, what's my takeaway? Whoever's in charge of the casting, be it Sega, RGG, director Yokoyama, are still fully to blame. Because why would you hire someone with that rap sheet and not cut him as soon as word got out? I mean, it's a video game. You can do that. You did that. And if you couldn't do that because of the contract, why would you have this guy that deep in contract where you couldn't do that? He's mentioned in a ton of the reviews, and half the reviews are negative. They didn't plan that. No way that's a hit to the bottom line they could just scoff away. But here on the Rex Salvo YouTube, we like to discuss the systemic root causes of issues. That's what we do here. That's all we do here. Yakuza isn't the first and isn't going to be the last piece of media he's in after the hiatus. He was let back into the industry and basically has a clean bill of crimes now, only due to the general regional attitude around SA. So I believe this is a classic situation of Japan being far too horny for its own good. Yes, I'm an American. It is kind of our fault, but I don't think this is going to help the birth rate. Okay, I'm being semi-ironic, but this isn't new. I didn't write the playbook. Excessive amounts of gooners are a serious socioeconomic issue. But anyways, this caused its divisions, including a right and left political mudslinging contest. I hate politics. Everything I've learned about politics has been entirely against my will. But because of that, I remember this whole thing where everyone was talking about the line, I just can't see myself dating a black guy being censored or not. Personally, I had a hunch and $40,000 on the line that they were going to go all in and add the N-word to that sentence, but they cut it. The whole thing. That's because they cut every single story involving the orphans out of the game. Okay, it's not as bad as it looks. That was a bad idea, but now there's a bunch of new optional ones tucked away in the new orphanage side content. Grow crops, sew clothes, cook meals, embezzle the funds, you can do that. And also the new Gal Gang, the 3-lady group of up-and-comers who I found myself in as the resident unk. Pretty loose on the term gal, we hire everybody. We got Ichiballs, we got Mine, we got the sex offender, you know. Also pretty loose on the term gang, we do not do anything illegal and we go to bed at 8:30, but it's all about building up teams and hitting people with motorcycles in self-defense. You get these massive team fights, and although this is the same formulaic formula as the Pirate Yakuza and Agent Yakuza, it's pretty fun. Although all this side stuff did come with a caveat, can't have your eat and cake it too. So you know those sub-stories? You know the funny ones? The ones that are fundamental to Yakuza? Well, we had to scale back a tiny bit, so while the original had 119 sub-stories, impressive, this game has 31. Now before I start tweaking, I'm gonna remind you, and also myself, about the whole Mine campaign. Let's go over that one real quick. So a couple years prior to the story, shortly after reenacting the scene where William Dafoe gets fired from Oscorp, Mine sees Daigo get body shielded by his own guys, and wonders what could possibly create such an atmosphere of respect and commitment, or Mine's just gay for Daigo, we've been over this. So he tracks down a guy called Kanda, a resident sex criminal, and offers him a business proposition. Bit on the nose there, but from that, Mine worms his way to the top of the ladder through entrepreneurial spirit. Technically speaking, this is the first Yakuza game where you play as a member of the Yakuza for more than 20 minutes in a franchise named after the Yakuza about moral grayness. This is also kind of the first game where the protagonist's morals are gray. That startled me a bit, because this is the same guy who walked up to an orphanage, called the orphans subhuman pieces of filth, beat up one of the orphans, and then ordered the demolition of the orphanage. I just remember thinking to myself that I can't believe they're making us play as someone so relatable. That being said, RGG is still subliminally struggling with their intense proclivity of never letting main characters say or do anything bad, so you occasionally do get lines of dialogue where it's just, he would not say that. But while the option of listening to the big silverback gorilla man Kanda and pretending to care about whatever he's talking about is there, Kanda's reputation is a little in the dirt, so he'll pay handsomely for you to run the operation of Kanda Damage Control. This is an allegory for Sega right now. On top of the main story, the side quests, and the Coliseum thing, there's just enough stuff here to cover for the sub-story losses. Bueno. So instead, I'm gonna talk about the music, because I'm one of those dorks who listen to video game music like real music, and this franchise always has some good video game music. Well, minus the disco and karaoke, which are basically real. Every game has at least something to give it its own flavor, but recently they've been doing more and more techno, and it's just been homogenizing. On their own, none of Pirate Yakuza's songs are at all bad, but you can't remember them. So in this one, they just blast everything with drums because old Yakuza music kind of sounded like rock, sort of, and 3 was the last Yakuza game soundtrack to have that signature grime, besides Yakuza Black Panther, but whatever. The Def Jam one, you remember that? Honestly, at least it's not just 300 more EDM songs called like Battle Spirit or something. Gold sticker, you tried. The new ones are good, like Onslaught and Brute Instinct, but my only nitpick is that the 2 Street Fight themes are way worse than the original 3 ones that they had. Not bad, everyone likes the but just worse. But then we get into the remixes of the classic Yakuza 3 songs, which, I mean, usually the Kiwami games never get quite right. Sometimes they lock in and make Outlaw's Lullaby, but usually it just... misses the mark. But here, regardless of what anyone says, all the remixes were good, I feel. Yes, even Lirismos in Lágrimas, theme of Juan Cazamo! Either upgrades or side grades to the original. Usually they just added more noise, yeah, but gosh darn it, Independence for Violence apparently just needed more noise. So my only complaint is that they didn't make more of them. Specifically ones for the 3 Street Fight themes, like one for Crush and Strike, which is just really good, Bruise, which is also really good and sounds like a Pokemon trainer duel, one for Ryukyu Humming, which is really good and tropical, one for D2A, which is a girly pop rock beatdown, and one for Clay Doll on the Cradle and Illtreatment. Also, More Huge, which has a remix called Extremely Huge, but that's in Kiwami too, I'm confused. But anyways, that's why I got it on PC, so I can mod in whatever I want. I recommend fixing the lighting, adding back the finishing hold wrestling moves without making them automatic to heat mode, making the segue 10 times as fast, replacing Mine's Dark Awakening theme with Animal I Have Become by 3 Days Grace, the Shirtless Apron mod, and lastly, adding in Mr. Cheese from Hello. you know, lore-friendly stuff. But I'd like to introduce you to my favorite new thing this game added, full character customization for Kiryu. You can ruin this man's fit immensely. For instance, check out the Business Intentional, suitable for every single social event, partially. Let me just fire off a couple others. Roger Door Persona 3. I can't even begin to describe this. Kiryu, but he's a Gopnik. The Tahitian Duchy, the Kaitor San. I killed the ginger and I took his stuff. Kiryu, but he's Yagami. Yagami, but he's Kiryu, that's a mod. And that's just not right. I'm really sorry about this one, guys. That one's another mod. We're gonna have to shut it down. But when I got to the end of the game, I decided to keep it simple and get in character as myself for dragging myself through all this. So I decided to choose no extraneous outfits besides the clown makeup. And then the game crashed 3 separate times. Absolute Kiwami. So after Kiryu shoots down an F-117 like a true Yugoslavian patriot and gives John Fly an absolute hiding, we make the revelation. Do you remember that thing I said a little while back? Ryuga, we will revive everybody. This is a threat. Gotoku. There's a guy in Yakuza 3, this game, Kashiwagi. He got shot with a minigun and died. That scene wasn't changed in Kiwami 3, so it doesn't explain in the slightest still why he is in Yakuza 7 and still alive running a bar. But we're just getting started here. Yakuza 8, another guy from Yakuza 3, Andre Richardson. He's supposed to be dead, now also running a separate bar. Yet another guy from Yakuza 3, Lau Kalong, shot in the head, he's alive. Then, Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, Massive Man, that's what he's called, dies in a car bomb. Very narratively important that this happened, so tell me, why did they add an extra scene clarifying he didn't? This also dumbs down a reveal later. Why would you do this? It's funny, Kiryu had cancer in the last mainline game. This is gonna be kind of a spoiler, but since then, they've been doing the whole, ooh, is he gonna die? Ooh, you are not going to kill his old ass. Another 20 standalones to John Yakuza. So that brings us to here. So Mine's been beat, right? He's gonna jump off of the roof, right? He's got Andre and Nelson, who's presumably going to crash pad off of him, right? He's fine. Just walking around. Landed in a bush. Yeah, that's enough. I'm out of here. Turns out he was enlisted in the Japanese Illuminati plot thread that they've been trying to get working for the past few years. As another man who erased his name. You know, after this leaked, I checked the Yakuza subreddit because I hate myself, and it went full Arkham Asylum levels of insane for a solid day before the mod Street Sweepers deleted all of it for containment. Right, so we've destroyed the timeline. What now? Another revival. What did you think? So in the original, Hamazaki stabs Kiryu in the post-credits, which leads to him eventually dying in Yakuza 4. This time, Mine stops him and starts monologuing. And since our last shred of dignity has been re-wood chippered, I have to say, ignoring this, and this, it's actually a really good scene, because as much as Kiryu has been a wholesome Chungus dad, he still has a side of primordial King Von Rage that they have been poking with a stick every now and then. Him having a dad side to his primordial King Von Rage was the whole point of the first game, which they have just kind of forgotten. So, hypothetically, if you wanted to explore that character trait in Yakuza 9 or something, it wouldn't hurt to use one of your remakes to lay the groundwork for it. Putting a formal address for that in a cutscene was a good idea. The cutscene was not a good idea. Among others. This game, its gameplay, its plot, its music, all makes a lot more sense if you see it less like a replacement and more of a homage, but the problem with that is they took down the original Yakuza 3 and Yakuza 3 Remastered for most online stores, so now you need a physical copy or have to join the 4 users of GOG. Not exactly future-proofed. Now some people theorize that this whole mess started with the directors. There was this guy Yokoyama and this guy Nagoshi. Nagoshi left in 21 and would go on to make his own new version of Yakuza, never mind it's cancelled. To me, neither of them seem like they were the sole driving force for the games being good, but the thing is, Yakuza is basically just Metal Gear for soap opera fans instead of ROTC kids. Think, both are entirely dedicated to responding to the usually accurate assertion of truth is stranger than fiction with yeah right watch this, which ends up making them some of the most immersively realistic games you could ever play, despite how the on-screen events are delusionally equivalent to 9 tabs of acid. And this sounds an awful lot like why Metal Gear's writing fell off after 3, which might have been because Kojima's co-writer, Fukushima, charisma dropped off radar. He was probably the guy responsible for interpreting the insane monkey scratchings Hideo would etch on the walls. That's why MGS 1, 2, and 3 might have been so good. Someone was there to feed him his medication, and now all Kojima can make is walking simulators. I find this fun because I'm insane, but that's not the point. I don't know who the insane one was, probably both, but now we've severed the synchronization of madness. So that brings us here. What should they have done different? Firstly, put a cartoon mustache and glasses over Kagawa so no one can tell it's him. That would deal with the whole situation. Keep the Yakuza 6 lighting because you had it by then. Probably just cut Ryukyu style entirely and added back the equipable weapons in Kamiyama. Added back Revelations and the old trainers, kept the original side stories, Orphanage and Not, do that stuff I said with the music, kept the classic finishing throws, and removed the juggle limit. And what do they do now besides the whole Stranger Than Heaven thing? Now what I'm thinking is they gotta realize that they're never gonna make anything better than Lost Judgment. I'm serious, it's just Yakuza with the best cuts of beef from Yakuza, and the game they've been trying to capture the magic of again with less and less success. So I propose, just make more Lost Judgment. The Kaito files were well received and took like 20 minutes and $2 to make. Dark Ties means you still know how to properly make stuff like that, so why not make a new expansion with both Higashi and Sugiura and call it something like Lost Judgment King's Court or whatever. Sugiura hoarded all the character development in the first game, and Higashi's just really cool, but I don't think either of them could sell an expansion on their own, so just do both. Go all in on the Final Fantasy 15-isms. Make it about them trying to stop the burglary ring and the Matsugane family post-Tojo dissolution, getting into a whole conspiracy, give both characters one style each, and let you swap between who you're playing as like a Lego game. Movesets are easy too. Modders can create custom ones just by grafting player, enemy, and boss attacks onto frameworks, which you did for the new Dragon style, so why not? Higashi was a boss fight and had his custom Muay Thai Taekwondo style, so let the player control that and add in some moves from Ajin and Akiyama, then make it effortless to juggle with, easy. Sugiura's got some weird parkour, capoeira, self-defense thing, but you can never fight him, except you can play as him in the Gaiden Coliseum where he was absolutely busted for no reason, like stronger than Kiryu. That was good, keep that moveset and add on stuff from Thug, Breaker, maybe, and Tanimura, then add the wall jump, Sky Dancer, and leapfrogs Yagami has. Write in that Kaito and Yagami are gone somewhere, so Dream, Minecraft, and the Gashi have to solve the ordeal. Give them new search mode gimmicks to put on the back of the box. You can charge $30 again, this would be super easy to do, and you get back a solid chunk of fan goodwill for having a good idea for once, because it's mine! Look, don't even pay me, don't even mention me, just hire me as a Shinotter when you get around to K5. Pretty please, it's my Yume to be in one of these. I can make you so proud. Re-release a classic Yakuza 3, then what you're gonna want to do for Kiwami 4, since Hamazaki isn't gonna be in the jail segment, replace him with Kuze from Yakuza 0. Originally I heard that as a joke. I don't care. That's the move, alright? Don't listen to anyone's hissy fits, this would be dope. You are gonna have to tweak some things in Yakuza 4's story, but that already sucks until the high moments in Aura finale, so who cares? After that, retcon Mine's revival again to be exclusively in the up-and-coming Dead Souls 2 timeline, and then we'll be thinking with portals. So what did Kiwami 3 get right? The Conda Backshots quick time event, where Kiryu goes for a suplex, but just gets like full-on possessed by Diddy, that is still in the game. I predicted all of this, you know. That's all we have for today. I'm Rex Salvo, and it doesn't matter what they're gonna tell you in the next week. I did not do it. You don't even get it this time. Go away.